Cubs, let's do this thing. It's time for the lead block.
Lead block.
Get to the playoff picture. Of course, the Cowboys not in the picture, so we'll get to the news, of course, on everything going on with them and Jason Garrett. We're in a bit of a holding pattern there, but there was big news out of New York yesterday, the firing of head coach Pat Shurmur after 2 seasons with the team. Now, while some were anticipating more of a front office shakeup as well, no moves were made. Gettleman's job is secure. Now, with more on what's changed in the last 24 hours, here's our very own Kim Jones.
Good morning, Kay. When I joined you yesterday morning, we knew that Pat Shurmur had been fired and that Dave Gettleman's job was safe. Well, on Monday afternoon, we heard from Giants ownership, John Mara and Steve Tisch. Mara said that firing Shurmur came down mostly to his gut instinct. As for Gettleman, his job was saved in large part because of what he does behind the scenes here, including with analytics.
The point I'm trying to make is it's not business as usual here at the Giants. We've made a lot of changes that you don't necessarily know about, and we felt like we need to give it a chance to see if it's going to succeed or not. All that being said, we need to win more games, and Dave knows that.
When co-owner Steve Tisch talked to reporters after Mara, he indicated that come the new year, he is going to spend more time on a day-to-day basis around the Giants. And then there's Eli Manning. He spoke at his locker and conceded his days with the Giants are over. It remains to be seen if his days playing football are also over.
I'm sure there's a lot to decide there. Thank you so much, Kim Jones. Back to the coaching search, though. Ian, we heard from the ownership. We heard from Kim Jones. It all went down yesterday. What can you tell us now about them moving forward? What about the Giants' search for a new head coach as well as their front office situation? How's that this morning?
Well, Kay, a name you're going to hear a lot, and you guys have actually already been all over it. Matt Rule, the Baylor coach, he's going to emerge as the top candidate for several of these searches, including the Cowboys whenever they move on from Jason Garrett, including the Carolina Panthers. But the Giants is one to watch here for him. He spent a year with the Giants. He was assistant offensive line coach. He's from New Jersey. That seems to be an organization that he would love to work for. Obviously, if he left Baylor, we still don't know that for sure. But Rule is definitely a name to watch there. The Giants have also put in a request for Josh McDaniels, the Patriots offensive coordinator, who they've taken a look at in previous coaching searches, as well as Eric Bieniemy, the respected offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. Meanwhile, for Dave Gettleman, he is going to return as the GM for 2020, and they hope beyond. That is something that is not up for debate. I know there's some question about whether or not a new coach would be able to have some say. Gettleman is staying, so whoever that would have to be comfortable with the direction of the Giants front office in order to take this job.
Let's take on the NFC East now, Ian. The Redskins in search of a new head coach. Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett's position with the team is very much up in the air. Poor Jane Slater down there covering that and trying to figure out if something gets moved there today. But what's the latest on both of those situations this morning?
Well, we'll start with the Washington Redskins. Ron Rivera spent a lot of time with owner Dan Snyder yesterday, just getting to know him and making sure that relationship can work, that familiarity. But make no mistake, this is happening. Ron Rivera expected to be the next head coach of the Washington Redskins. An announcement officially should come today for Rivera, and then we can try to figure out, is he going to keep some of the offensive staff there, Kevin O'Connell, a respected offensive coordinator, or how are they going to proceed in Washington? Meanwhile, for the Dallas Cowboys, it isn't a holding pattern as the Cowboys officials sent all the reporters home who were just waiting yesterday, waiting to know whether or not Jason Garrett was going to get fired. They are expected to move on from Jason Garrett at some point, should be today or tomorrow, and then begin what should be a fascinating coaching search with a little bit of a college feel. I'd expect Lincoln Riley and Rule both to be in that mix. Meanwhile, another opening which got filled earlier this morning, the Miami Dolphins, according to me and Tom Pell. He's actually their former offensive coordinator. He brought the spread to the NFL and helped popularize it. He is going to be the one to come in, help this new quarterback, whoever it is, and take their offense in a little bit of a different direction.
Thank you so much for the update there. Chad O'Shea fired from that job. He had a lot of success up in New England, wishing him and everybody whose jobs are up in the air at this time of year all the best during this weird and tough time. Thank you so much, Ian. Talk to you in a bit. We don't know much about what's going on with the Cowboys. We mulled that one over earlier. Redskins look like they're close to a deal with a coach with a lot of experience as a head coach and a lot of success at that level. Let's talk about the qualities that the Giants should be looking for in their next head coach. I remind you, they've been through a couple now. Ben McAdoo had no experience, and that Pat Shurmur, not a ton of experience head coaching.
Yeah, Shurmur had the span when he was at Cleveland was 9 wins there. Then he gets 9 wins for 2 years with the Giants. Matt Rule's the leader in the clubhouse. That's what I'll tell you here, and that's what everyone is saying around the league. And it's because he worked for the Giants already in 2011 and 2012, was an offensive line assistant. Sounds like it's a menial job, but he was part of the staff and would travel with the team and was around Dave Gettleman. So there's a relationship there. At the very least, we know Tom Coughlin's seal of approval. Bill Parcells has given his seal of approval. And what Rule brings is both fresh air, some of the analytics stuff, but also some of that culture building, which is what a lot of people around the Giants organization said is what's missing right now. Give us a guy who can be the culture builder. Yesterday, both Robbie Anderson of the Jets and Sean Chandler of the Giants came out and spoke to the media and were just raving about what Rule did for them as men in their lives. 2 guys who played for him at Temple. And I think America's going to get to see what Rule does Wednesday night when they play in the Sugar Bowl against Georgia. And just to quickly, if you don't know the Baylor story, I mean, there was some serious things going on at Baylor. They were thinking about shutting down the football program. There was a whole deal. He leaves Temple, where he was very successful, goes to Baylor, and within 2 years goes from a 1-win team to an 11-win team, and they're playing in the Sugar Bowl tomorrow night. So Matt Rule, his credentials are unquestioned, and he actually checks a lot of the boxes that the Giants are looking for.
I think it's fascinating what you were talking about yesterday, that Rule is not, I'm not offensive or defensive. I'm both, right? That's his take. I'm not either of them.
The offensive line in one place, then at Albright and at Western Carolina was a defensive coach.
From the Giants, I want a pure offensive coach. Just look right now. Let's look around the playoffs right now. Let's look at the offensive coaches.
Yep.
Shanahan, Reed, LaFleur, Peterson, Payton, O'Brien. Like, this is not a coincidence, guys. This is the league. I really am intrigued by Eric Bieniemy. I really am. And it's someone that Peter's been talking about for years. Some of the stuff you talked about with Rule. Fresh energy, fresh face, likable guy. There's also this thing that I think is a little bit of BS in New York about you don't want someone necessarily who's combative. You want someone who is a solid vessel who's not going to fight the media. I mean, how did that work out for Shurmur? How did that work out for Todd Bowles? I think that's a complete myth. If you look at anybody from Parcells to Rex Ryan to Herm Edwards to John Tortorella, those guys have all had big-time success. I almost think the New York media respects you more if you fight back rather than just sitting there. Are you seeing how it's going with Adam Gase this week? It's not great. There's things he had with Le'Veon, surly as hell, doesn't want to be there. I've seen Bieniemy. I've seen him since he was a college player at Colorado. Effervescent, big personality, Reed prospect, perfectly tutored and everything. Sat there with Patrick Mahomes. Now go to Daniel Jones. I think this city would explode if they hired Eric Bieniemy. I do.
You want a John Tortorella.
I kind of do, Kay.
I love it.
Tortorella's had some success, but he's a maniac.
No,
Yeah, you got to have a little fire to you if you're going to be able to survive in this city. What qualities should they look for? This individual should be a motivator of men.
Okay.
I might say a motivator of men with millions. That's the hardest thing to do, is motivate a guy who is making as much money as you, or some guys even making more. He also needs to be an evaluator of talent when it comes to the team.
They got the number 4 pick, too.
Evaluator of talent. That's big because you have to nail picks and trades when it comes to the offseason and being able to kind of keep the talent coming in. And then also, you have to be an evaluator of intelligence when it comes to the coaches. I talked about it yesterday. Whoever this coach is, whether he is more offensive-minded or defensive-minded or split in the middle, leaning to one side, he needs to have offensive coordinators and a coaching staff that can help him with a game plan. Because what I find is when you have a head coach that tries to do both, it's a very, very difficult thing. He needs to make sure the guys on his staff can help him. Just like you mentioned Andy Reid, he has Eric Bieniemy. Think about the coaches that try to do both. It's hard to juggle being a head coach and also a coordinator.
True.
Yeah, well, at some point, though, maybe you want to just be the CEO, right, and kind of let go and just make sure everything is good. What's interesting with Rules, I don't know who his offensive and defensive coordinators are. Every coach has a binder, and they present it to the team when they interview, and they say, here's who my ideal candidate is, here's who's very likely. I've already gotten word that this guy would leave his job to come with me. I don't know Rules. I know that Josh McDaniels has been through these interviews year in, year out, and he's got his crew. He might have lost some of those guys when he went to Indianapolis, but he definitely at least is buttoned up and knows, this is my guy on offense, this is my guy on defense. I don't know what Rule's bringing with him. Cliff Kingsbury, no one knew what he was bringing. Vance Joseph was a fired head coach, and he said, I want that guy. I don't know that guy, but I know that I could trust that he's a veteran presence and that he's a defensive coordinator at the very least, and Vance Joseph was agreeing to do it. The question is, who would leave their current job for Matt Rule? Some of them might not even know Matt Rule.
Good. How does Jason Garrett fit into all of this?
I'm fascinated by that.
Is he a legit candidate, you think, for the Giants job if he's available?
I think so, right? Like, I think you got to take a meeting.
Those qualities that we just talked about.
Absolutely.
If he fits, and let's say Jason Garrett is let go today, 100% you're going to interview him. You know how much it's going to tweak Jerry Jones too? Yes.
The question is there a Giants fan? I mean, the Giants fans shouldn't decide this, but does the fan want Dallas's fired head coach? Like,
I don't think the fans wanted Shermer or McAdoo either.
Like, the Jets fans don't love having the Dolphins fired head coach.
Yeah.
Like, that's our rivals.
And
like, what?
Forget about fans. Players see that too. We hear about hiring, and the first thing we think is, what happened in his last? It's just like any job. What happened in their last job? And I remember being in Minnesota, and our offensive coordinator came in, and we thought to ourselves, oh, where did he come from? San Francisco, let's look at their offense. They were the worst in the league, and he got fired from there. Well, why is he our offensive coordinator? He had to win us over. So to your point, Shregs, I don't think fans or players want a guy who was just fired and didn't fulfill expectations.
Yeah, everyone wants Josh McDaniels. He went to Denver and he was fired. He didn't have a good time as head coach either. Why is he the belle of the ball then? He hasn't proven that he can lead an NFL team. That's what I want to see. Josh McDaniels.
But he's also a winner.
It doesn't matter. You just made the point. Your most important point of everything you just said was that there's being a leader of men and a motivator of men and winning analytics, being able to do it and pull together.
Josh ain't getting fired from nowhere. He's walking away with a whole bunch of jewelry and walking into any organization saying, I can bring this to your
I'm just saying,
team.
I want somebody that has experience. I would love to see, if I'm a Giants fan, somebody that has not even NFL level experience. Like Matt Rule has success. He's led a team successfully. You have guys talking about his character, what he's done for them. All of that's important because it's like being a CEO is very different than just being a coordinator. I want to see somebody who has experience running a team.
This market is really interesting too, and I think the Gase thing, the players respect. Gase won 7-9, and they're on the right side. And
yesterday was not pretty with Le'Veon.
I don't think you saw the entire press conference.
Okay, tell me.
The entire press conference, he talked about Le'Veon 3 different times. What was clipped was the final question by a reporter that he's had antagonistic stuff with all year. It wasn't a reflection of Le'Veon.
I don't think Le'Veon saw the whole thing either.
I agree. Le'Veon
tweeted
retweeted it, and I understand that.
GIF.
I understand that. I think that's going to be an interesting thing. But I do believe this New York media and this market, like, that plays a role. And Shermer, no one will say an ill word about him. It's kind of like he got fired, and we're already on to the next one. Like, I don't even know
that
if
era didn't happen.
Remember that era of Giants football. So you kind of do want that big personality.
And 9-23 is really what just sticks out with Pat Shurmur. He had it in both different places. We wish him, of course, all the best as the coaching searches continue in the NFC East. Is all the tumult over with, though, outside of what's going on with the Cowboys? Are we done with?
We got Jacksonville has a meeting today.